It was November of 2021 when Ethan Miles found himself traveling from Boston to Denver for a jiu-jitsu championship. As a seasoned competitor, he often traveled across the country for tournaments, usually crashing with teammates to save money. But this time, plans fell through. Everyone else had booked together, and he had to go solo. He found a small Airbnb studio that looked decent, modern furniture, close to downtown, and affordable. He didn't pay much attention to the reviews or the neighborhood, booking it in a rush between training sessions. Only after landing in Denver did he realize the area wasn't great. The streets were narrow and dimly lit, lined with aging houses and shuttered shops. For a moment, Ethan considered canceling, but exhaustion and logic overpowered instinct. "I'll just sleep there and be gone all day," he thought. When he arrived, the host wasn't there to greet him. The profile photo was a picture of a cactus, and all communication had been through text. They sent him a door code: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ethan frowned. "Really?" he muttered. Still, the place looked clean enough. The Wi-Fi password was literally password, which made him chuckle until it started to feel unsettling. The studio shared a wall with the main house where the host supposedly lived. There was only one door, a small bathroom, and a narrow window by the bed. He unpacked, showered, and by 9:30 p.m. was lying in bed trying to get some sleep before the morning weigh-in. That's when it happened. Tap, tap, tap. Ethan's eyes shot open. The sound came from the window beside the bed. He sat up, frozen. Hello?" he called out. Silence. He waited, muscles tense, listening. A minute passed. Then again. Tap, tap, tap. Ethan threw off the blanket and sat upright. "Who's there?" he said loudly. The tapping stopped. He waited several minutes before grabbing his phone and messaging the Airbnb host. "Hey, is that you at the window?" An hour passed before a reply came. "Oh, sorry. I was going to bring you some water, but it looked like you were asleep. My bad." Ethan stared at the message. The tone felt wrong, polite, but off. Still, he tried to shrug it off. He double-checked the door lock and sat back down, phone in hand, scrolling to distract himself. Then, around midnight, a sound came from the door. Beep, 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 beep. The electronic keypad was being pressed. Ethan froze. Someone was entering the door code. He held his breath as the lock clicked. Without thinking, he lunged forward and slammed the door shut from the inside, just as it began to open. Whoever was outside pushed hard, but Ethan threw his weight against it, yelling, "Get out! This is my room!" From the other side came a man's deep voice, calm, almost rehearsed. "This is my room. Open the door." The voice used the name the host had given him, Marta. "Get the hell out!" Ethan yelled back. "I'm calling the police." The sound stopped. Silence. Then footsteps retreating. Ethan called 911, trembling. When the officers arrived, they weren't surprised. Apparently, this wasn't the first complaint from that address. The host came outside, defensive and dismissive, changing her story multiple times, first claiming she didn't know who it was, then saying it was a maintenance worker, then denying anyone had been there at all. The police waited until Ethan's Uber arrived. As he rode away, he looked back through the window and saw the curtains inside Ethan's Airbnb slowly closing. He never saw who was behind them. In the summer of 2019, Chloe Bennett, a freelance photographer from Portland, decided to take a week off. after finishing a stressful project. She wanted to disconnect. No emails, no calls, no city noise. Scrolling through Airbnb one night, she found what seemed perfect. Off-grid cabin in the Vermont woods, peaceful escape for nature lovers. The photos looked rustic but cozy, a small wooden cabin surrounded by forest, lit by soft lantern light. The reviews were all 5 stars, with vague comments like "amazing stay" and "super peaceful." Chloe booked it instantly. When she arrived, it was already dusk. Her GPS lost signal 10 minutes before she reached the property. The dirt road was narrow and unmarked, winding through dense pine trees. By the time she spotted the cabin, her phone battery was at 5%. The host, a man named Tom, had left a note taped to the door. "Welcome, Chloe. Make yourself at home. The key is under the mat. No service out here, but I'll check in on you tomorrow to make sure you're settled." Something about that last line made her pause. Check in on you. Still, she brushed it off. The inside was charming. Small bed, fireplace, old wooden table. But it had no electricity, just oil lamps and no running water, only a hand pump outside. By 9 p.m., darkness swallowed the forest. There were no nearby houses, no road lights, just the sound of insects and the occasional hoot of an owl. She read a book for a while, then decided to sleep. Around midnight, she woke up suddenly. It took a second to realize why. Someone was walking on the porch. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Thump, creak, thump. She froze, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. There was no lock on the cabin door, just an old iron latch. Her breathing grew shallow as the footsteps stopped, right outside the door. Silence. Then a faint scraping sound, like metal on wood. Chloe quietly reached for her phone to call someone, but there was no signal, and the screen died seconds later. The scraping continued. Then a knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks. "Chloe? It's Tom. Just checking in." Her heart pounded. He said he'd check in tomorrow, not tonight. "Tom?" she whispered. "It's midnight." He didn't answer. Instead, she heard the sound of the door handle turning. She jumped out of bed and pushed a chair under the latch. "Please go away," she shouted. The voice changed tone, softer but colder. "I just need to make sure you're okay." Chloe backed away toward the window. "I said go away or I'll call the police." He laughed quietly. "There's no service out here, Chloe." The handle rattled harder. She screamed, throwing her weight against the door. For a full minute, someone on the other side tried to force it open, then finally stopped. A minute later, she heard retreating footsteps. The next morning, sunlight poured in through the cracked blinds. The forest looked calm again, like nothing had happened. When she went outside, her stomach turned cold. The dirt path near the porch had footprints, several sets circling the cabin. When she packed her bags and drove away, She stopped by a local gas station 15 miles down the road. She asked the cashier if he knew anyone named Tom who rented cabins nearby. The man froze for a second, then shook his head slowly. "That old place hasn't been rented for years. The owner passed away last winter." Chloe stared at him, speechless. "Then who left the note?" In March 2022, Ryan Delgado, a traveling software consultant, flew to Kansas City for a 2-week project. His company usually booked hotels, but this time the budget was tight. So Ryan went with an Airbnb, a quiet suburban house with modern decor, a backyard, and a cozy home office setup. The host's name was Cynthia, and she seemed professional. Verified profile, responsive messages, and clear instructions. Everything looked normal. When Ryan arrived late that evening, the host wasn't there. She had sent him a lockbox code and a polite note. "Welcome, Ryan. Feel free to use anything in the kitchen. I'll be out of town this week, but my property manager might stop by to check the thermostat." The house was spotless. There were faint traces of lavender-scented candles, framed photos of nature on the walls, and a guest book on the counter filled with short, cheerful messages. For the first few days, everything was fine. He worked from the dining table, cooked dinner, and enjoyed the peace. But on the 4th night, things started to feel off. It began with a noise, a faint knock, deep and dull, coming from somewhere below. He ignored it at first, assuming it was the plumbing or the furnace, but over the next few nights, it continued, irregular, distant, like something hitting wood from underneath the floor. By the 7th night, Ryan couldn't ignore it anymore. He decided to check the house's layout. The laundry room was at the back, with a small wooden door that looked out of place, painted the same color as the wall. When he pulled it open, he found a narrow staircase leading down. Oddly, it wasn't mentioned anywhere in the listing. He stood at the top of the stairs, listening. It was pitch dark below, the air cold and stale. He flicked on his flashlight and called out, "Hello? Anyone down there?" No response. He took a cautious step down. The wooden steps creaked beneath his weight. At the bottom was a small unfinished basement, cement floor, no windows, and a few storage boxes stacked in the corner. But what caught his eye was something stranger. A mattress on the floor, a lamp, and a small metal bowl with a half-eaten can of beans beside it. It looked like someone had been living there recently. Ryan's stomach tightened. He backed away slowly, heart pounding. As he turned to go upstairs, something moved in the dark, a faint rustle coming from behind the boxes. He froze. "Who's there?" he whispered. No answer. He didn't wait to find out. He bolted up the stairs, slammed the handle, and shoved a chair under the handle. After several sleepless hours, he finally called Airbnb support the next morning, explaining everything. They told him to leave immediately and said they'd contact the host. He packed up fast, heart racing the whole time. As he walked toward his car, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The basement light was on. He hadn't turned it on. Later that night, Airbnb messaged him with an update. The host has confirmed she does not have a property manager, and no one else has access to the house. That was the last message Ryan ever got about it. The listing disappeared a few days later.